Right, today we're making a livery for the Lotus Exos in assetto corsa. I wanted to do the UNRACED Ricardo Zonta BAR01 from 1999. The original concept where they had two different liveries for the car, but then the FAA decided they like having cars that have a uniform look, so they weren't allowed to run it, which is how we ended up with the highly cursed zipper livery from 99. It's a shame, as I think the 555 livery was nicer than the Lucky Stripe one. I think it would have been a nicer addition to the grid, a bit more of a standout. I think if they'd run this car as well, it would have been more regarded as a decent livery throughout time. I think it would have been really popular even now. So I'm working in assetto corsa with Photoshop, working on a 2D template, and then just instantly updating it with the PSD extension in AC. Which is really nice because it means you can just, even though working in 2D is a bit fussy, you can just save and it instantly updates, so if something's wrong you can fix it pretty quick. So I just started with this blue layer, added some stars. I took some 555 decals off of a rally car and I just chopped and changed them a little bit to fit the skin. It's funny with a car like this, there aren't really many reference photos for it because it never raced, and the ones that do exist are not great quality, so there are some things that you have to just kind of guess on, like some of these logos I did my best approximation, like this XL thing, I have no idea what that is. This British American logo as well I had to kind of make up. Teleglobe as well, the only logo I could find of that was really low resolution, so I had to kind of work with it the best I could. It's a recurring theme of weird F1 sponsors that no longer exist. Right now you're seeing some of the problems in working in 2D. When you put them on more curvaceous parts of the car, they tend to get distorted a little bit because it's trying to stretch 2D over a kind of a extended 3D section of the car. So warp and perspective tools here are your friends. You can just kind of eyeball it and fix it a little bit at a time. Again, the major crimes no one's going to notice, so you can get away with it. Because the 555 car was really only a show car, it wasn't ever raced, it's quite light on sponsors and there isn't a huge amount of detail on it, so I just wanted to kind of focus on what I can see and what I know is on the car and make it look nice, and the things that I'm not so sure about, I just tried to keep them really simple. Like this side stripe, I just kind of wanted to make it clear and defined. I like that the rear of the car isn't too overly cluttered considering the front is quite busy with all the stars. It wasn't too difficult panel matching these stripe sections. On some cars in AC, especially the templates, something that will look quite linear can be about 5 or 6 different elements and it's a real pain trying to line them up. That's one of the reasons why I like the Lotus Exos, because it's not a real Formula 1 car, so it doesn't have kind of superfluous winglets and aero everywhere. It's very smooth, very uniform body. Like this whole kind of side pod section is really only one piece all the way up to the airbox, so it's very easy to work with. I think it looks fantastic as well, it's a really nice looking car. It's a great example of kind of early 2010s F1 style. I'm about to start working on this kind of airbrushing on the stripe now. This was a very 90s feature, I think, that's just definitely not around anymore. All that heavy paint. I'd love to see engineers try and work with that now. You used to get a lot of very heavily airbrushed liveries back in the 90s and 2000s. Now everything's just very clear matte vinyl, so everything's clean cut, all the edges are nice and smooth. No heavy paint dripping off these huge kind of flared stripes. Again, one of the pitfalls of 2D templates is sometimes pieces are weirdly aligned, like this side pod section on the front of the chassis wasn't quite as aligned as the other side was, so I had to rotate that stripe a little bit round to get it to line up. No biggie though. Yeah, some of these templates can be highly asymmetrical and you have to just kind of work with it. Just adding a few more stars and tidying things up. There really isn't a lot to this car, it's a nice pretty quick job. I got done doing this whole car in about an hour. Which for 2D working in AC is pretty quick. This isn't GT Sport unfortunately. But you have a lot more possibilities. I'm just finishing up at this point now, just doing some of the other textures like the wheel rims and the headrest, things that don't take too long. They just kind of complete and round off the look of the car. And now we're pretty much done. So here are some nice kind of high-res screenshots to give a bit more detail and a bit more beauty. I'm really happy with how this car came out, considering it was such a quick job. It's always easy to work when you're inspired by something. I find it much harder to do original designs. But I like how I managed to kind of work with the model of the car and be faithful to the original but make it look a little bit more modern.